Be discussing the presentation, script, and PowerPoint. Let me start out by saying solar is complicated, especially with what we do with Freedom and what Freedom has to offer, because they have so many different options, and with flexibility comes responsibility. We spent a lot of time and energy condensing all the information into 3 documents. The first is the due diligence reference guide, which we already went over. And the second is the presentation, script, and PowerPoint presentation. They're designed to work hand in hand with each other. The goal was to create a comprehensive, standardized, consultative sales process that is easy for both the agent and the customer to follow and understand. Now, as a solar salesperson, you must wear many different hats. Aside from solar, you're playing the role of a teacher, mortgage broker, contractor, engineer, babysitter, advocate, and psychologist. In order to do that effectively, you must first find out what their goals, their needs, and their wants are. Be a teacher, not a salesperson, and you're going to win the trust of your customers. See, solar is not sales, it's education. You're teaching something unorthodox, getting people to that aha moment. Customers generally do not know they have a problem, or if they do, they don't know how bad it actually is. It's our job to point out and make them feel the pain, make them feel the pain again, and then offer the solution. All selling is selling change. Human nature dictates that we all hate change. Therefore, we have to uncover their true pain points. And to do that, we have to be consultative in our approach and educate them in a conversational manner. Our job is not to sell solar. Our job is to sell and maintain credibility. Once we established our credibility, the product, in this case, solar, will sell itself. The goal is not to get the sale. Ultimately, the goal is to get the sale to stick, get it installed, and get paid for it. Getting the sale and have it cancel does us no good. There is no participation prizes. We only get paid when it gets installed. Basically, we're taking them on a journey to get them to arrive at the destination of our choosing. The following video clip by Taylor McCarthy is going to illustrate how to take someone on that journey. It's actually an old card trick that my dad showed me over 30 years ago. He also learned it from Tom Hopkins, who is the GOAT in the sales training industry. If you have not checked out Taylor, I advise you to do so. You can look him up. He has his own channel on YouTube.
I'm going to give you an example of how effective questioning works. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to, without looking at it, I want you to pick one of these cards, any one of the cards, but don't look. All right, so can everybody see that card? Okay, everyone sees it. Okay, so we're going to put it back on the deck. You did not see that card, correct?
No.
Okay. So let me ask you, have you ever played cards before?
Yeah.
Have you ever played poker?
No.
You haven't, okay. And if I'm not mistaken, how many cards are there in a deck?
52.
There is, okay, 52 cards in a deck. And there's different colors in the deck. Do you know what colors those are?
Red, black, yeah, red and black.
Red and black, exactly, okay. And the red would consist of the diamonds and the hearts, and the black would consist of the clubs and the spades. If you were to pick between the red or the black, which would you choose?
The red.
The red, okay, that's a good choice. And the red would leave you with 2 different colors, which would be the hearts, and then you would also be left with the diamonds.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to pick between the hearts or the diamonds, which would you choose?
The hearts.
The hearts, and that would leave you with one only remaining option, which would be the diamonds, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were left with the diamonds, there's 2 different numbers. There's like the numbered cards, and then there's, I forget what they're called, the face cards, that's what it is. So there's number cards and there's face cards. If you were to pick between the face cards and the numbers, which would you choose?
Face cards.
Which would leave you with just the numbers remaining.
Yeah.
Now, do you like the low numbers or do you like the high numbers?
High.
High numbers, okay, that's a good choice. And if you were to define 7, 8, 9, and 10 being the high numbers, and obviously you were left with the diamonds, if you were to pick 2 between the 7, 8, 9, and 10, which would you choose?
8 and 10.
8 and 10, good choices. So you have the 8 or the 10 of diamonds. Out of those 2, which would you choose?
The 8.
Which would leave you with 1 remaining card, and what would that be?
10.
Of diamonds, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, what was the card that I showed you guys?
What the fuck?
The 10 of diamonds. So the example of this is how to use, it's not a magic trick, it's effective questioning. I took his hand and I led him to the answer that I needed him to get to. He made the decision though, not me. I just led him in the direction that he needed to go. Thanks for your help, man.
Thank you.
So that's effective questioning, and that was something taught to me by Tom. And you know, once you can understand how to utilize effective questioning, you know, the idea is it's not magic. It's just I'm creating the decision, and that's what we call closing. If you can't create the decision, that's when buyers say no. Something called a circle of persuasion. If you watch a lot of my YouTube videos, that's how I do sales. As I go from building rapport to going into benefits to back into rapport to benefits to rapport to benefits, back to rapport to benefits, and then I work myself closer to to yes. I got like Franco Harris in the backfield, and I'm handing him the ball, and he's just doing 3-yard gains every single time, and I'm running out the clock on the other team, and I'm working myself closer to the end zone.
I mentioned previously, some of you are new to solar sales, and some of you are experienced sales agents, but are new to Freedom Forever, and some of you have experience with Freedom Forever. Most people hate using scripts because it feels unnatural. They would rather freestyle. We understand everyone has their own way of doing things and want to do what feels comfortable. However, because of all the options Freedom has to offer and all the complexities that go along with it, using this script is necessary. On the surface, some of you may find the script overly simplistic. Please don't get offended. Knowing that you have all different skill and comfort levels, it had to be written this way for all levels of agents in a uniform manner. Now, many of you have in-house solar presentation experience. Virtual closing is basically the same process with subtle differences. With virtual, you don't have the advantage of being in the same room. You cannot see their body language, and they can't see yours. They can't see your facial expressions, and you don't have direct contact. You can't shake their hand or pet their dog. Therefore, we have to overcome those hurdles by going the extra mile. The advantage to virtual is that we can use the script, whereas in-house, you can't. Think of it like taking an open book test when you were back in school. Having an open book is a major advantage than not having the book. And that's because we can follow the script and remain in control, preventing you from going down rabbit holes when you freestyle. Where within in-house, you're more or less freestyling. Another advantage is that you're sharing your screen. Therefore, they're focused on the screen and not what's going on around them, like your body movements, facial expressions, etc., like you would if you were in their house. The script is providing you a game plan to follow, offering you direction and allowing you to be laser focused, direct and to the point with the customer. Just like what Taylor demonstrated in the previous video, allowing you to remain in control and not have the conversation take a turn and go off to Pluto. It's designed to tell a story and engage the customer in a conversational manner. The goal is to remain in control, create the pain points and sense of urgency, and it's allowing you to set expectations and the tone ahead of the customer. In most cases, the script is going to address the answer to their questions or concerns before they even think or bring them up to you. You will come off as a professional, someone they can trust and believe in. Now, before we dive in, let's talk about mindset for a second. Going into it, in the back of your mind, you have to realize you're not the first person they spoke to, nor are you the first person to tell them that your company is the best in the industry. These people are prepared and on guard. Therefore, we need to differentiate ourselves by going the extra mile, being prepared and taking the time to explain it the right way, building credibility and taking all their doubts away, providing a reason to say yes and prevent them from canceling and not taking shortcuts and being lazy. Do not be looking for instant gratification. There are no shortcuts. You have to put in the work and the effort. And some agents may think that the preliminary work is unnecessary or the script is too long. To put it into perspective, you have the opportunity to make more money than doctors or lawyers. Think about what an average commission for selling a system is. Now compare it to how many hours you actually needed to work to make the same money if you were paid $30 an hour, just say, for example. Even if you took an hour to do the preliminary work, 2 hours to get through the presentation, and another 2 hours combined to do the post-sale process, that's 5 combined hours in total. Even if you made $5,000 a sale, that's $1,000 an hour compared to having to work 167 hours to make the same money at $30 an hour. So we want you to work smarter, not harder. Again, we only get paid if the sale sticks and gets installed. So we won't want to do the extra work. So we want to do the extra work in the beginning, measuring twice and cutting once. At the end of the day, by putting in the initial extra work, it's going to save us valuable time and effort in the long run. All right, so let's get to the script itself. As you may have noticed, the script is fairly complex. It's like an onion. The script has many layers to it. It's comprehensive and offers something for everyone. It's easy to follow and understand both for the agent and from the customer's perspective. Please note there are a lot of instructions, rebuttals, and sidebars built in. Therefore, it's not near as long as it looks. The estimated time to get through it is between 45 and 60 minutes, depending on the customer's questions, comments, concerns, and interactions. You're also going to notice that the script is color-coded. Different color highlights and fonts mean different things and should be approached accordingly. For instance, yellow background with a red font is my instruction to you. It means an action is required. An example of that would be instruction to go to a slide in the presentation or wait. You asked a question, now you have to wait for an answer. Anything with a green background is questions we are asking the customer. With a blue background, it's a built-in sidebar, adding additional info or built-in rebuttals. These are not part of the script. Anything with a gray background is follow-up to the rebuttal. With a blue background and red font, it's a second instruction, meaning an action is required. With a red background, it's a major instruction, action is required. Anything with no background color and has red font, only say if the situation calls for it. Example, someone living in Florida and you're talking about snow. Obviously, they're not going to get very much snow. So it does not apply to them. All right, so moving down to page 1. The first thing you see on the top is a list of probing questions, triggers, and empathy phrases. They are listed every 4 pages for your convenience in case your mind goes blank or can't think of what to say or ask, especially when it comes to small talk or you're wanting to buy time. We're asking probing questions throughout. We are doing it for a number of reasons. The first being is to keep them engaged and interested. Nobody wants to be spoken to, they want to be spoken with. Also, it prevents us from rambling on, giving us a rest and involving them into the conversation. The biggest reason is to find out what their motivating goals are and pain points. By them telling you those, they're telling you how to close them by overcoming their objections and turning a negative into a positive. If you explain to somebody what it is you're doing, why it is you're doing it, and why you're asking the questions that you are, and why it's important for them to answer it, most people will go along with you and give you the answers that you need. As they provide the answers, please jot them down on a scratch pad. They're going to come in handy later, I promise. Each slide in the PowerPoint has its own script, basically breaking it down into bite-sized pieces by describing and explaining the slides in the PowerPoint. Think about the presentation as a series of scenes that make up a play. Think of the script as a series of scripts, one for each scene in the play. All the slides are all interconnected and designed to tell a story. It's designed to keep the customer engaged and interested and involved. You're also going to notice that the script is divided into 6 sections or steps. They are as follows: the introduction, the loan or the finance section, the lease section, building out the system, and then 2 different closes built in, one for the purchase and one for the lease. Obviously, we're going to approach each differently. Therefore, there's 2 closes. Step 1 is the introduction. Basically, it's designed to sell them the idea of solar. By explaining the basics and creating a foundation, we are setting up for the close while being professional and building credibility in the process. In most cases, the customer has not yet sent you the electric bill. Now, you're going to find cases where they do, but in most cases, they're not. So if they have not done so yet, we want to give them a reason for a call to action. We want to provide enough meat on the bone to make them want to jump through hoops and go on a scavenger hunt and find it and then send it to you. Keep in mind, without the electric bill, we cannot give them an accurate proposal. So if they didn't send it to you while you're speaking with them, you're going to have to end the presentation when this introduction section is completed and schedule another meeting once the bill is received in order to finish the presentation. So let's dive into it. Again, you want to have the script printed out. Do not read it from a computer screen. The script is pretty self-explanatory and provides you a step-by-step direction. Therefore, I'm not going to go through the entire presentation or script with you. I will demonstrate how this works for the first slide so you can get the gist and go through the finer points of the more complicated sections. At this point, you're sharing your screen with PowerPoint presentation open. Once again, on the top of the page, there are triggers to initiate small talk. So the script starts out after you had the initial small talk. As you can see in the highlighted section, it's directing you to slide 1. So you'll open up your PowerPoint presentation and go to slide. Highlighted in green, we start asking the probing questions. And here we have highlighted in yellow with the red font, it's saying wait. We're waiting for an answer from the customer. Don't say anything until they answer you. I know it seems like it's obvious and simplistic. However, doing these presentations virtually is different from doing them in person. Sometimes we get hung up on reading the script and forgetting about the nuances of having a normal conversation that we would typically have if we were doing it in person in their house. Moving on to an example of a built-in rebuttal, we'll go to page, and you can see highlighted in blue a question to ask if it comes up. In green, it's the question to ask the customer, then it's instructing you to wait. And then we have the rebuttal in gray, but only say it if it's brought up in conversation. If it's a concern for the customer or if they have a question about it, otherwise it's not part of the script. Another nuance is on page 6. You can see that some of this has red font. Now, we're talking about the weather in this section, and it mentions snow. Well, you got to be aware of where the person or the customer lives. So if they live in Florida, obviously you're not going to mention anything to do with snow. All right. So don't say it. All right. Obviously, if they live in a cold weather state, it's part of the script. If they don't, if they live in a warm weather state, don't mention snow unless they bring it up. Also on page 6, we're asking about the electrical panel highlighted in green. And in yellow is the instructions to wait for an answer. And then if they don't know, it's giving you the rebuttal to say, okay, we'll find out later. Don't worry about it, basically. You'll see underneath is a sidebar in blue. It's not part of the script, but it's something you should know. All right. So don't mention it. On page 8, it starts to get a little complicated. You'll see it's highlighted in red with white font. In this section, we're talking about Shreks. Since they only apply if they live in the District of Columbia, Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, or Virginia, it only pertains to those people living in those states. If they don't live in those states, skip the section. Go on to the next paragraph. Do not mention it to them. If you do, it's going to open up a whole can of worms that's unnecessary, and you don't want to go down that rabbit hole, I promise. All right. The next paragraph is highlighted also in red. This time, make sure that they do not live in these states that are listed. If they do, skip to the next paragraph. Finally, to close out this section on page 9, highlighted in yellow and in big bold letters, it's instructing you to continue to the next section and to continue the presentation if they already provided you the electric bill. If they have not provided it, we're giving them a last chance to provide it. If they still don't provide it after we ask, we're explaining why they must. We have to end the meeting and to reschedule another meeting to complete the presentation once you receive it. Again, without the electric bill, we cannot discuss financing. We can't build out the system, and we can't discuss the different options available to them. It's just that simple. So once again, we're providing meat on the bone, giving them reason to jump through hoops and go on a scavenger hunt and get you that electric bill. And it's the carrot and the stick. The carrot being we continue the presentation, the stick meaning we have to reschedule it. Okay, so let's briefly go over the slides in section 1. Again, for the purposes of this video, we're only covering section 1, the introduction. As you can see, slide 1 is more or less a cover page. Slide 2, we're explaining the qualifications in order to work with us. Slide 3, we're explaining how the grid works. Slide 4, we're explaining how to decipher an electric bill. Slide 5, what we're doing is using gas price analogy to explain why they want to get locked into solar now. When you read the script, you'll understand the reason for it. All right, on slide 6, we have a series of built-in calculators in the presentation. This is the first one. It's describing the cost of doing nothing, meaning if they decided not to go solar and to stay with their utility company. Basically, what you're doing is plugging in the numbers that they provided you, starting with what they expect the inflation rate to be and what their average bill is now, which you're plugging in the numbers that are in pink. Right? It then calculates what their monthly bill will be in 25 years, what the annual cost will be in 25 years, the estimated annual cost in 25 years, and then the entire amount they spent over 25 years. All right? It's very powerful when you explain it to the customer, and they could actually see this for themselves. All right. Slide 7 explains net metering and how it works. Slide 8, we're talking about Freedom Forever and why we use them. Slide 9 explains why solar is so complicated. Slide 10 is included for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's the first solar panel that was actually ever installed. It was installed in 1883. So it's a pretty cool picture. And secondly, we want to demonstrate that solar has been around for a long time, that it's stable technology and has been improved over the years. All right. Slide 11 is common misconceptions about solar. And slide 12 is basically showing that solar panels will look good on any roof compared to the older models. 13 explains why people choose to go solar. 14 explains how solar panels increase the value of their home. And slide 15 explains the 30% ITC tax credit. And slide 16 is recapping everything we spoke about up until this point. So that's section 1 in a nutshell. You have now built your foundation, so the next sections will make sense and be put into perspective from the customer standpoint. If they sent you the electric bill, you're going to continue to the next section. If not, schedule another appointment. In the next video, we'll talk about ownership versus leasing, building out the system, financing, and then the close. Please let us know if you have any questions or need clarification. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.